Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ken, I am also known as the Phoenix, and today I would like to go ahead and start off the discussion, our car sermon if you will, by talking about adversity. It is something that we're always going to face in this 3D life that we are currently experiencing. It's what we came here for. Came here to learn lessons. I've said it in every single video I've recorded thus far, and continuing the trend today, here we go, surprise. We came here to experience adversity, to learn lessons. That is specifically why we came here. Don't let anyone else fool you. We came here to experience this because life is chaotic on all aspects. Even ascended souls have problems that they must face and that they must manage and overcome. So, it's not just the broad scope of aspect of adversity that I want to talk about today. It is more so how we respond to adversity. That is the most important part, because you can have this projection of what you think your life is, what the idealization of that looks like. I want to be this, I want to have this vocation, that vocation, I want to be a writer, I want to be an actor, I want to do something, I want to create and make a ton of money. Money is the one thing that we need in the 3D world to continue and be successful and ensure that we have everything we need, whereas that is not the case on other existences. They've advanced beyond that, but that doesn't mean that there's enough to go around. That doesn't mean that they are not expanding, or there's intergalactic civilizations that are trying to expand or are sent on faraway missions, far from their home, far from their loved ones, and they are expected to continue the species. Quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. There is constantly, on every level, a challenge. Even from the level of God, at the God source, there is always a challenge. I mean, specifically from the God source, you have all these different iterations of yourself that are living out these lives, that are trying to understand and live, and you're consciously aware of everything from the very small atomic building blocks of life all the way up to the advanced civilizations, the collective consciousness, that super being, if you will. That's how I'm imagining it. When you have all these pieces of singular consciousness forming a collective consciousness that drops in details, that drops in ideas that go to multiple people at the same time to ensure that idea manifests. You hear that constantly, that people have that idea, like the one singular idea goes to multiple people, and usually one person is credited because that one person was the one who followed that will and followed through and actually making sure that that was manifested into our dense reality. They did the work. So cash, it's king here. It's not something that is important in other cultures, but that is the one thing that we need for sure to ensure 100% we have what we need. And it is because of this that our motivations are off, are skewed. Our motivations are for money. And remember, it wouldn't be an AKA the Phoenix sermon if I didn't say money is not the root of all evil. It is the love of money that is the root of all evil. If you are one of my light keepers, go ahead, write that in the comments right now. The love of money is the root of all evil. Like and subscribe if that resonates with you. And that is also what misleads us. We idealize a lot of things in our lives. We idealize partners. We idealize vocations. And for those of you not in the know, vocation means job. That means career. It means what we do to make that bread, essentially. And because that is where our motivations lie, we consistently are doing things that make us unhappy, right? We think that, no, I can stay at this job because I am getting a raise. That's the situation I'm at right now. I know it won't make me happy in the long term, but in the short term, I can certainly weaponize that and expand and try to slingshot myself into a different existence. But this is the adversity that I face in my day-to-day. This is what I will use myself as an example, as I always do. And I currently work 3 blocks away from where I was almost killed. You hear me talk all the time about the carjacking incident. I took this job specifically because I could walk to work. It was more money, but I could also walk to work, and that saved a lot because before I was commuting an hour and a half one way. So you get more money, you cut your commute down to an 8-minute walk a day, that's 16 minutes round trip. You are doing good. You made the right call in that switch. That's what you'd call a move up. But things were good for the first, gosh, it was like 6 months. The first 6 months I was able to walk to work every single day. Then April 15th of 2022, that incident occurred. It changed my life and I needed to move. Now, my experience and everything that goes into the aspects of my employment, I'm not going to get too deep in the weeds with you, but this company pays. That's not something you find very openly. Mostly companies are trying to nickel and dime you. But this company that I work for, they do pay. And I'm making like 114% of what the market is for my actual job description. Now, I do a lot more outside of my job description because that is, a requirement. That is what I have to do. But getting back onto track here, adversity. I have to deal with that trauma. And I pointed in the direction of where the carjacking incident happened. I have to deal with that trauma every single day. It also adds to the stress of when random people try to approach me in the street, hence why here we are, back seat. One of you light keepers the other day commented that you were the backseat ride or die. Hell yeah, I appreciate that. I love having my light keepers be my ride or die. Y'all are the best, and I don't give you enough credit. Like and subscribe if that resonates with you. We're all over the place here today. Getting back onto track though, adversity. So yes, I had to deal with that adversity every single day. I still do. I was able to come to terms with it. There was something where, and maybe it's because it's been cold. When it warms up, that's when issues happen. That's when the city starts popping off. That's when it's almost like they need to catch up for lost time. They need to make up for lost time on the crime rate. All the criminals need to go ahead, pop off, and start making up for lost time. Get out there and make that bread any way possible. So it's going to be heightened stress coming up. And I was hoping that I wouldn't have to be here for that. So I am still trying to face that. But the adversity that I feel that I face, the inner turmoil, is something that is up to me to deal with. All right, I handled that by journaling. I recently gave you guys the knowledge of what I use to ground myself and to calm myself down and to deal with that adversity. I'm not there, I'm here, the outside can't affect me, this, that, the third. Deep breathing, focus, bring yourself down to center and let that pass. Where does that inner turmoil come from? Sometimes we will just latch onto something negative and spiral. I'll use my haircut for an example. I got a haircut this past week, and I'm telling you right now that I said, when I went in there to my usual hairstylist, I said, I want to look like Brendan Fraser from The Mummy. And she remembered who I was. She remembered how she cut my hair right before my wedding, so it seemed. and we were on different pages. The lesson here is to always show your hairstylist a picture, especially if it's been almost 6 months since you've seen them. And she gave me a bowl cut, right? It's basically, as I've been describing it, it's Leonardo DiCaprio in the front and Will Byers in the back. It's such a fantastically horrible look. I'm being dramatic about it because I was feeling a certain sort of way about the haircut, and I kicked the heck out of my bed frame. I didn't kick it out of frustration. I was walking to one side of my bedroom to the other, and I kicked the steel leg and almost broke my toe, and it hurt, and I was in my head emotionally, right, already having a bad day. So I cracked a beer, started drinking that. Here I go, going down negative ways of coping, bad coping mechanisms, poor coping mechanisms, and I almost spiraled out. But what happened is this morning when I came into work, I was feeling lost again. I've been trying to read physical books with my eyes, not listening to audiobooks like I usually do, but I've been trying to prioritize that as I try to replace the time I would have spent on social media with other things that are fulfilling to me. And the last 2 nights, as of this recording, I have not read. And now one of those nights I was coming up with a new story, right? I recently said in a previous video that I was letting go of a story that I had worked on since 2009. Seen many iterations. It's changed concepts and themes so many times that I decided to change it up. I decided to take the themes that I wanted to work on that really resonated and spoke to me and that I wanted to write about and change the setting, change the characters. I wanted to restart from the ground up, not having recycled characters with recycled motivations from a previous iteration. I'm starting brand new. And that's something that you can do at literally any point in your life, is restart, start from scratch. That is something that you can do today, little by little. You have free will. And remember, free will is what I'm all about. Our sovereignty is non-negotiable. I will continue that trend until this channel ends. Sovereignty is non-negotiable. I want you to write that in the comments. If you are a light keeper of mine, a fellow light keeper, let's go ahead, write it in the comments. My sovereignty is non-negotiable. Like and subscribe if you are not subscribed, if that resonates with you. I would greatly appreciate it, and I would be forever grateful. So, we have free will and how we deal with situations. And I can come on here and it's easy for me to just say, you know what, we're here to face adversity, we're here to learn lessons, just go with the flow of things. It's not that simple. Self-love is very important to have on this ride. You have the amount of empathy for other people, right? If you're one of those people that have empathy for everyone else and you're always there to tell them it's okay, it will get better, you know, it's okay to falter, you're only human, say that to yourself when you're in that situation. Because I used to. For over 30 years of my life, I never gave myself that benefit of the doubt. I always was down on myself. I always was nice to others, but really hard on myself. And it was one day that the switch flipped, and I was like, why am I talking to myself this way? Because I would never talk to myself, or I would never talk to anyone else this way. And it was in that moment that I was like, I think I need to really sit back and just assess how I speak to myself and consciously change that. And ever since I did, and I embraced self-love, things have changed dramatically. It's easy to falter. We are only human. We are all human having a human experience. None of us is better than the other. And comparing yourself where you're at to someone else, to two completely unrelated journeys, is coming from a place of negativity. It's natural, right? We're always comparing apples to oranges all the time. That's and it's not necessarily our fault. Standardized testing is to blame for that as well. We think there's a universal standard to fit, and there is not. Everyone exists to serve a purpose. Every archetype exists, and it's when we learn that we need each other and that we can depend on each other, and that magic happens. I say this all the time, and I want to say it with you now. Live in the moment, be present, create magic. And that's what I say when I find my thoughts wandering to things. And remember, there is a brief lesson here to learn that most of the suffering we have is in our own minds, right? And not present day. We suffer so much more in our mind than we do in the actual reality of things. And if you can control your mind and just realize that, oh, I'm spiraling, I'm thinking about something that has no effect on me or will never happen, or I don't know if it will ever happen, bring yourself back to center. Use that grounding technique I gave you the other day. And say to yourself, be present, make magic. And I want you to write that in the comments if that resonates with you. Be present, make magic. Adversity, light keepers, we're here constantly to face that. Throughout all of our lives, we will face it. And while we idealize the life we want, what we actually want is on the other side of that adversity. And the first step of actually tackling the problem is to let go. Let go, don't fight. Let whatever is bothering you come at you. Or you just walk straight to it and you deal with it. And once you deal with that problem, you will realize that it was never as bad as you made it out to be. Our minds always make everything worse than it needs to be. It always does that. And that kind of just goes upon and builds upon what I was just talking about, how most of our suffering is in the mind and not in our actual surrounding. So, how do we deal with adversity? Well, there's no universal answer, unfortunately. You have to find the answer from within. A lot of our negative behaviors are driven from past traumas we suppressed in our childhood, traumas that our brain just completely wants us to forget, so we are avoidant, right? The negative coping mechanisms that I have in my life are solely to benefit avoidance, so I don't have to deal with what is bothering me. And when you avoid what is bothering you, it just becomes bigger. It becomes a bigger beast when you ignore it, because ignoring something is actually worse than dealing with it in a negative fashion, because if you're dealing with it in a negative fashion, you are at least attempting to deal with it. When you are ignoring something, it withers, it wilts. But that's what happens when we ignore our problems. They get worse. And it is when you do that, when you actually face the problem and you let it go, right? You let go of your opposition, of trying to control it. It is in your acceptance of it being what it is that you are liberated from it. And that is one thing that I say to myself all the time. There is liberation and acceptance. And if you are a light keeper, I want you to write that in the comments as well. I want you to write, there is liberation in acceptance. Like and subscribe if that resonates with you. So, we've covered a lot today. We have covered what it means to be in 3D reality. I feel like I talk about that all the time. That's pretty much what every episode is about. We've talked about adversity specifically and what it means to come here and face it, positive ways, negative ways, ways of avoidance through our negative coping mechanisms. And we've also managed to talk about idealization in there as well, and how, you know, as we always talk about in almost every episode, how money seems to drive every negative behavior here. Because I've known so many people that are rich that are still in misery because they are not living an authentic life. And while right now, yes, there is a certain base level of comfort and peace that the money that I have access to has allowed me. I've built that from nothing. I went from being over $10,000 in debt and not having a savings to just now having an emergency fund. And that is life-changing. It took me 3 years to build it. It took me 3 years to build it, but I finally achieved what I've set out to do. Debt-free and having an emergency fund. Those two things are underrated. Debt is slavery. And always remember that those are true facts. It's amazing to me. This is going to be a little bit of a side rant. This is going to, it will never cease to amaze me how the people that are in debt and believe in that debt system want everyone else to be in it too. I once got out of debt previously in my life, and I was so happy. I posted it on Facebook only to get shit on by like 14 people who were super condescending about it, acting like I didn't know how the world worked. Again, that's why I left social media. That's part of it. I was once a part of an old souls community, and I tried to convey how lesser advanced souls, I've talked about this before, are in plants and animals, and they are basically part of a group. I said the term lesser advanced, and someone said that I had the biggest ego because I considered plants lesser. I considered animals lesser. And I was like, look, I said lesser advanced, like all life is sacred. Number one, that's why I let that carjacker go. And that's why I don't hunt animals. And like, it's crazy to me that people will just do everything they can to attack someone from a false perception. Now, I just responded calmly and was like, okay, number one, this information comes from Dolores Cannon. You can look into her and see how she pretty much is a pioneer for the spiritual community. And number two, I said lesser advanced. That does not equate to lesser importance, because all life is important. Dealing with people is very frustrating for me, and especially in those instances, social media is very annoying. It is a very big point of negativity. So I could talk to you all for hours. It is obviously a thing that I can do. But what I want to wrap this up and say that we all face adversity, and that we all can create positive ways of dealing with problems. The only thing that you need to understand is that if you are in a negative space, if you have bad coping mechanisms and you seem like you're constantly getting in your own way, I want you to, again, take a breath as I always do. I want you to understand that that is normal. And then I want you to come from a place of self-love and from a place of no resistance. And I want you to accept the circumstances that you're faced with. I want you to literally sit with yourself and face those problems. I want you to sit with yourself in silence, come to terms with the circumstances, and then come up with a plan that will make you feel better. And to actually know that plan will mean that you have to sit there and you will have to visualize it, and you will have to think about every single aspect of your life if you are in that situation that you think you want to be in. And once you are at that spot and you have thought about everything and you are at peace, that is when you know. And that is the world for yourself that you'll want to manifest. And that is your way forward. And that is how you deal with adversity. If anything that I have said in today's video has resonated with you, please, for one final time, I'll say it, like, subscribe. It really helps. I'm just here spreading a message of light and love, and for every like, for every share, for every comment, for every subscription, you are helping spread that light. And as keepers of the light, that is what we are only here to do. That is our soul mission, and that is our collective bond. Everyone, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for watching today's video. As always, my name is Ken. I am also known as the Phoenix, and I will see you next time.